Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Eli as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen. This is from Thundercat and Tame Impala titled No More Lies. And we're going to be listening through this track from start to finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. And the keys are really gorgeous, aren't they, with the chorus on them? Because I understand Thundercat is a bassist. Not super familiar, but I understand that much. And there's just two things I instantly adore about it. I love the finesse with the drums. Those tails with the interesting 16th note grooves on like the snare drums and tom fills there. It gives me a real sort of 70s kind of funk or soul aesthetic from the impression there. Which, as I understand it, isn't a lot of Thundercat stuff. I'm not as familiar with Tame Impala, but I look forward to hearing more. But it's just also these really interesting, unusual chord progressions that we have here, where we just seem to be not only familiar with the music theory and composition, but we also just like to sort of play around with the listener's expectations of including chords that may not necessarily usually transition together, but the smoothness of the tone of the instruments combined with just the lushness and the flavor of it makes it work. You know? Sorry, girl. Didn't mean to drag you in my dreams. Baby, no more lies. Fantastic head voice there. And we adjust the tom fill there at that point to make it a little bit sort of more, a little more complex, but just enough to add a sense of like, oh, we're moving on to something new here. It sifts us over neatly. Great dynamic range here coming down. I'm just kind of ass. I mean, there's a real sort of authenticity here. We're not trying to pretty up the lyrics and make something that's a convoluted piece of fantasy poetry here. We've got a chillness, a coolness with it, where we just seem to be having an actual conversation, you know? A little bit of a sense of humor to it as well. Having an alarm in the middle of a lesson session. Sorry, I teach students, and very occasionally I sort of do these reviews during lesson time when I don't have a client, but so apologies about that. Put a call and response there occasionally. Synth soul? I even like the talking as a sort of a sub layer, but a foley there was an interesting choice there. I got some other words through clearly, but it kind of forces you to pay closer, further attention into it to get sucked into it. Really neat songwriting. Sound they're filled with. That's so satisfying when you go down for the say goodbye part, going down to this really kind of wonderful, luxurious seventh chord there. It's homely, man.
But I just know after 1 to 2 years with you. Either way it goes. But my therapist told me that I should tell you the truth. But you're still angry. So sometimes I still should have lied. I tell you the truth because I care. But I also lie to you because I care. But if I tell you the truth, I guess I can sleep better at night. But then it looks like I don't care because I'm telling you the truth. I mean, I guess I'm just not everybody hates when they get to that part when they realize that I don't want to tell you I don't care, but if it seems like I don't care, it doesn't mean I don't care. It just looks like I don't care. Because my emotions have been sanded off. I live in LA, sweetie. What do you expect?
Really interesting way to sort of pan it off. You have the remaining motif without as much of the drum backing there, kind of the strings and the keys and stuff on the sides, and you focus on that constant conversation. You've had a bit of a hint of it in that interlude bit with one of the synth solos, and then we're just left to kind of play along with that. It's such a seamless transition there. Really impressive. I also just want to give a shout out to like the antelope and the cheetah, how they were just bopping along the entire time. I assume that maybe the antelope is Tame Impala, and then the Thundercat is the cheetah. I adore it. I think it's a great sense of humor there. They don't take that. They clearly care about what they're singing about, but you get the impression that they're also not taking themselves too seriously, if that makes sense. But welcome to my conclusion of this track. My review of it, Thundercat and Tame Impala, No More Lies. Now, what do I think this track is about? I think that this track is trying to sort of look into the situation that this guy and this whatever, the woman has, or whoever, I'm not going to judge. That their situation where they're trying to sort of figure out, their own sort of doubts and insecurities and fears about the relationship, the issues they're trying to sort of figure out whether or not to lie or to tell the truth, because of the fact that if they tell the truth, it makes them feel better, but it also kind of hurts the other person. But if they lie, then they're being a bad person. All those sort of contradictions and sort of almost hypocrisies and all this kind of, and basically it just comes down to being from LA. What do you expect? As if to say, that's just a product of being where I am. What can you do about it? I think that there's a lot more to it. They talked about being away for like a year or something like that. So it makes me think that maybe there's going to be distance in that relationship and it's just difficult. It might also be talking about their positions as career musicians, the situations they have to go into where they get connected to people. But because they are busy and because they are working and the music industry requires you to do a lot of touring and stuff like that, maybe that is just something they have to struggle with. And it's also, your partner or whoever being traveling for months at a time, going and doing concerts and stuff like that. It can be a bit rough, I can only imagine. So, interesting story. I thought the vocals were really well handled. I'm not sure who was singing here, whether it was Thundercat or Tame Impala, because I know that both can do vocals. I'm wondering if Tame Impala was maybe doing the talking and Thundercat was doing the singing or something like that. I mean, either way, it was fantastic in that head voice there. A lot of it was in that high range. The talking was in the lower sort of chest voice. The sing was in that sort of higher head voice, falsetto-ish kind of region occasionally. And I think that it segged really nicely on top of the bass parts, the keys, the other sort of synthy kind of parts there, the drums, everything else within the arrangement and the backing. It was well stacked. The note choices that we chose, I suppose for lack of a better word, were great. They interacted really nicely with the complex harmonies, with the interchanging, unpredictable chord progressions, and we also had a great sense of catchiness with those hook lines. And ultimately, it was just really satisfying to listen to someone finesse it like that. We clearly have a deep understanding as well of what we were trying to do with the song, as well as how to express ourselves in a way that seems authentic for the mood of the piece. And just in general, I'm just really impressed by what they've managed to accomplish here. It seems like they managed to find an equilibrium with the intensity of the expression within the singing and sort of spoken parts, whilst also having a sense of humor to it, like the part with like the just because I'm asked part, you know. There was a lot to take in, but I think it was worth the journey. The song at 5 minutes 26, with understanding that the vocals suited the lyrics and the storytelling well, you know, the song is meant to back that up. And from the offset, immediately we just had a great sense of fullness in the mid and high ranges from those keys, those synthy parts there. It was so smooth and sultry, and the funkiness, the soul aesthetics there, it just had so much charisma without being too over the top. We had that theme there across, with variations with the bass lines and the chord progressions and stuff amongst the verse and chorus parts, and there was synth solos as well with like the spoken parts underneath. And there may have been even sort of like one or two extra components. I appreciated that we didn't just have the same movement harmonically or melodically the whole time. We sure as shit didn't have it rhythmically. The drums were absolutely on fire within this track. But just ultimately, just such a satisfying piece of music to listen to. It was a real adventure. I liked the fact that there was absolutely no filler. The performance overall was tight, but if I talk about a few of the instruments I really appreciated, I think one of them, just to kind of just get that out of the way, is the drums. I know I commented on the way that the fills were played earlier in the piece there when we were listening to it. I adore the fact that we tried, you know, genuinely attempted to not just sit with that chord note groove there. We found a way to niche lots of 8th and 16th and even like maybe some triplet parts occasionally there. We can clearly, you know, we can explore the kit and make it work within the aesthetic or within the vibe of this track. And, you know, we kept this great sense of groove as well. We knew when to sort of pocket and keep things moving at a steady pace and allow other instruments to take precedent. And I appreciate that. It was give and take. It was a really organic performance there with chemistry, clear chemistry between the members that were helping out Tame Impala and Thundercat on top. The bass parts were tremendous. I enjoyed listening to that. The thing I like about Thundercat's work from what I've heard is that it's not just a prominent bass line. It's not like we're doing just a bass solo. We may have even had some of those synths as bass parts there. There's just a really sort of sense of uniqueness to the tone that Thundercat uses within this to kind of create almost leadish attribute to his bass playing there. I've seen him play like a 6-string bass, right? I mean, 6 strings are incredibly hard to play. Take it from someone who took a while to get used to 5. 6 strings, they are big fretboards, they are big necks, and to be able to explore, to be able to sort of walk across it and find the notes we need and to be competent in that regard, the guy is an absolute savant. Really impressed with the way we performed on that instrument and the way that the bass just wasn't just in that low end there. We could explore octaves and find our way around the different scales and modes, especially considering how complicated those harmonies were. We did not just have traditional typical major minor key signatures and scales, not even extensions. We fully played around with different sort of parallel majors and modulations and stuff like that. This was advanced stuff, but we handled it. The keys, they were the other main thing I'd like to sort of talk about. So we had the bass that could explore the low and mid ranges there, and we had the drum kit, which is more of a percussive tour de force moving forward. It was that the keys, they glistened and glowed, and they were just a bright, pretty sheen on the piece that voiced the notes that the vocals couldn't across the chord shapes and broken parts and arpeggios. They were tremendous. There was a real sense of sophistication to them. They came up and down with different forms of with different intensities dynamically. But there was also, again, a sense of relative sameness in the sense that it was well produced, so they were just always there, kind of helping you have a sense of continuity within it. The synth solo is actually, while I'm here, the synth solo that we had in that 2/3 part there was wonderful. We clearly understood how to play the keys, and we had interesting legato and glissando movements there going up and down scale shapes and triads, and it was just very pretty and really I didn't know how we could possibly elevate it further. There was already a lot of complexity to the arrangement, but to then allow those flurries on top occasionally as almost a call and response was just tremendous. And it was the final sort of extra bit of icing on the cake for me. Keeping in mind that the vocals usually are, but I think they were so integral to the song, kind of being as everything came together in a way that was meaningful. There was no filler, as I mentioned before. There was not a note out of place. It was just a really well written and performed track. I love it. I'm really thankful I got the opportunity to listen to it. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering. Now, this was a tremendous effort, I think, in terms of basically just how commercial grade it was. It sounds like it came from a major label. The vocals, synths, keys, bass, drums, everything else was so present without being superfluous or too prominent. There were no resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum. There was interesting choice of panning of some of the instruments, like some of them went way back, like you could hear things all the way back, and there's a sense of almost like it surrounded the whole circle. It's not often something you get. Usually people will pan sort of 100%, but sometimes you go for an extra sense of dimensionality, that depth there. It kind of swallows you in. And I like the fact that everything wasn't leveled exactly the same, like in that sort of synth soloish part, that was the focal point. But the vocals also, there was like talking that was going on that you couldn't quite hear clearly, pulled you into the mix more to kind of help you to absorb that. And I think that was just really excellent. Yeah, it was nice and wide stereo field. There was plenty of dynamic range to the recording as well. They're not same loudness all the time, even though things were nicely glued. So there was still a sense of temporal continuity to it. It was nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting was handled. This is a thoroughly positive review. Did I necessarily personally connect to it? I think I've always kind of sort of struggled with the almost relative melancholy that I get from some of these songs where we try and talk about intense things in a way that's kind of palatable, and then we kind of laugh it off, and it's just whatever kind of thing. I know it's probably not, then there's more nuance to it. But, the final statement, whatever, I'm from LA, what did you expect? I know what they're getting at there, and I think it's well done. Just if we talk about how a track made me feel, because what I've realized very recently with these reviews is that I'll give all these compliments and stuff like that, but then I might not look totally enthused or sort of excited about it. And it's more because I listen to this and I can respect and appreciate the art form and the musicality of it, without necessarily it connecting with me on a personal level. It's not that I haven't had people I've been away from and wanted to spend time with. It's not that I can't even relate to the subject matter. It's a song that's well done, but didn't, it was almost too good for me to really... It was too complete for me to find a niche in, I suppose. I don't know how to describe it. I'll think about this as I sort of talk about this more, because I think that's a component that's worth discussing when you're a reviewer, because people aren't robots, and I want people to understand why I'm maybe not as expressive as other music reviewers, unless it's certain songs, because some songs break me and I burst into tears. But anyways, thank you for watching my review of this track from Axe, Thundercat and Tame Impala, titled No More Lies. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show us some love via their various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you get the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SC Patrons video. Spiderhands out.